Welcome to ThatPhillySportsGirl. I'm your host, Elise Person, and we are going to be talking about all things Eagles football today. So let's get right into it, because what happened yesterday needs to be talked about. Week 1, the Philadelphia Eagles lose to the Washington football team 27-17, giving Washington its very first home opener since 2014. Very first home opener win since 2014. Come on, guys. I don't want that on my back. I don't want that as an Eagles fan. Come on, let's clean it up, Eagles. We have beaten them the last 5 times we have played them. And you guys had me in the first half. You were looking good. We were up 17-7 at halftime. We scored on the very first drive with a touchdown pass to Zach Ertz. Jalen Reagor has that 55-yard reception. Also, so sweet to watch because he was being defended by Ronald Darby. And we know how Ronald Darby did nothing for us for so many years, so it was just great to see him do nothing for somebody else as well. Then we have that great touchdown pass to Dallas Goedert, but then after that, our offense just stopped. We had literally nothing going on. No offense. Majority of our yardage came from the first 4 drives. Then our offense just turned into screen passage for no yardage or long balls that didn't connect. I felt like our offense was screen pass, sack. Screen pass for no yardage, sack. Screen pass for maybe 1 yard, long ball that didn't connect, and then that was it. Every single drive. Where did our offense go? And Carson Wentz's accuracy throughout the day was just not there. Granted, we have to talk about he did not have much time in the pocket. Our offensive line, or lack thereof, because I don't know what they were doing out there, but they were not protecting our quarterback. But even when he did have time, he was not making accurate throws. He was throwing too long, throwing too high. Our receivers couldn't get those balls. He was even throwing a little too much to the inside, allowing for the defenders to be able to grab those balls, which also accounted for 2 interceptions in yesterday's game. So I think that he needs to clean it up on his end. I've been riding the Carson Wentz train for years now, and I've always stuck by him. But, I'm starting to not believe some of the words that are coming out of my mouth when I'm standing by him. So I need him to step up and throw better games. Even we're going to have difficulty with our offensive line throughout the season. It's just a fact. We have 2 big key starters on the offensive line out. So we're going to have to work extra hard to protect Carson. But he's also going to have to work extra hard in getting these passes off. He had a completion 24-42. That's just a poor completion rate yesterday. We need better passes and we need more completions. Like I said, the impacting factor, the offensive line. We can't ignore that. Wentz was sacked 8 times. 8 times. Injury-prone Carson Wentz. We just can't have that. We want to all talk about how Carson Wentz is always injured. Oh my goodness, he's always hurt. But we also have our offensive line giving up 8 sacks. Dave Zangrano tweeted that this is the most sacks the Eagles have given up in a game since September 30th, 2007. 2007. Literally 13 years ago. I was 8 years old the last time the Eagles gave up that many sacks. That shouldn't be happening. There's no exceptions for that. We had no answer for the blitz. Granted, yes, we're going to give credit to where credit is due because Washington had a phenomenal defensive line. Chase Young, so athletic and such a presence. He is so big, so fast, so strong, just so athletic. We have to acknowledge that they just have a great defensive line. He finished the day with 1 sack. Ryan Kerrigan led the Washington football team with 2 sacks, actually setting a franchise record with his 92nd career sack. So, Washington has some pretty legit players on their defensive line, but, we just still can't be giving up these plays, these sacks, so important. And some of them were for some pretty serious big losses of yards. So we need to clean that up. And, granted, we are missing Lane Johnson. He's still working back from an ankle injury that he suffered from with having surgery in August. He was limited in practice last week, so we're still working to get him back. Hopefully he's going to be back this weekend against the Rams. But obviously missing Andre Diller and Brandon Brooks is really affecting our offensive line. And then we just can't catch a break with these injuries. So then we have rookie Jack Driscoll, who's in for Lane Johnson. He goes down in the third. I mean, our whole offensive line is going down. But I'm not going to sit here and make excuses for them. Jason Peters, you didn't really do much for me either yesterday. I mean, we worked out this new contract for you, and I mean, you didn't play horrible, but I also would have liked a little more from you. And Jordan Mailata and Nathan Herbing didn't really do much for me either. So, our offensive linemen that are out there need to step up and need to do something. You're getting paid the big bucks to do your job. Do it. Act like you've been here before. We're not playing JV football. I get that we're missing some pretty big offensive linemen, but if you're out on the field, take accountability for that. Just because you might not be the starter or our best offensive lineman, that doesn't mean that you can't perform at a high level. You're playing in the NFL. You're not the third string JV offensive lineman. Act like it. Act like you've been here before. This isn't the first snap you've ever taken. You're playing in the NFL. You're one of the most elite football players in the country. So I'm not going to say it again, but act like it. We need better offensive line presence. Like I said before, we just cannot afford for Carson Wentz to be getting sacked 8 times a game. It's just unacceptable. Moving on to the defense, I mean, they didn't play horrible. Our offensive turnovers gave Washington some great field positions, though. So, I mean, there's only so much the defense can do. I mean, our first interception was towards the end of the second quarter, intercepted at the Eagles' 45, and then the next interception in the third was almost a pick six. I mean, as a defense, yes, 27 points, we should not be giving up 27 points, but also they did kind of have 2, I don't want to say free touchdowns because our defense could have made some more stops, but granted, we can't be letting them get field position like that. Offensively, it's embarrassing. Defensively, it's probably pretty frustrating. So, I don't know. They just made, and I just think it impacts the team momentum. The offense is playing bad, so then the defense feels like they need to pick it up a little more. And it's not good for team mojo. It's not good for the whole dynamic on the team. We just need our team to play together. That was our problem last season. Our offense would play great one game, and then our defense would play horribly. Or our defense would be making the craziest stops all game, and our offense is out here doing screen passes for no yardage. Stop with the screen passes. They're horrible. We're not doing anything with them. We're picking up no yardage. I know I said I was talking about the defense, but our offense yesterday was a joke. I can't even stop thinking about it. Back to the defense, I was really excited to see Jalen Mills at safety, and I liked it. He was looking great. I loved him at cornerback too, but he wasn't always the best at man coverage. So I think that he did really great as safety because I think he was seeing the field, he was reading the plays, and he just has speed and agility that he does great at the safety position. So I was very happy with the way he was at safety, and I'm very excited to continue seeing him at safety. So let's move right along into injury reports. Why do we always have so many injuries? Why? Yesterday we had Jack Driscoll go down, like I had mentioned, for the offensive line. Miles Sanders was out with a hamstring yesterday. Then we have D lineman Vinnie Curry and Brandon Graham go down. Curry with a hamstring, Graham with a head injury, both of which are questionable for week 2 at LA Rams. So that's also something we got to think about going into the Rams. I mean, we now have 2 pretty decent, amazing defensive linemen. Fletcher Cox is probably out there half the time feeling like he's all alone. Knock on wood, the guy's very rarely injured, and he's out here looking at all of his other defensive linemen that are he's like, where are you guys? Can you guys stop getting hurt? Granted, Brandon Graham with the head injury, that's a tough one. There's really concussions. We want to keep our players safe. We get CT is a very big thing that is now becoming prevalent, and we need to protect our players, but it is a hard one to swallow because there's nothing they can do about it, and they even probably want to come back more than we want them to come back, but they just have to take their time, rest their brain up, and it is important in all seriousness for those players to get the recovery time they do need when they have and suffer these head injuries. But, nobody wants another injury-prone season. I don't know if it's something internally where the Eagles need to look at their trainers or their players' nutrition. There's a lot of things that go into injury prevention, and it's not just stretching. It's, getting in the training room for ice baths and getting in for stim and heat before practice, which I'm sure they all do. I mean, they're not dumb. They're playing NFL football. They need to take care of their bodies, but it's just too frequent with the Eagles. And I don't want to point fingers or anything, but what is it? Eventually you kind of have to start asking questions because, Miles Sanders being out with a hamstring, what are you doing the week before game one to the fact that you're going to get a hamstring injury? Maybe I'm just speaking off frustration because I would have loved to see him in, even though he probably wouldn't have been able to do anything because our offensive line can't block or chose not to yesterday. I don't know which one it was. But, I have a hard time thinking about and swallowing another season like last where we are just scraping guys, So, but who knows? Maybe it's just flat out bad luck. I mean, we are Philly fans, for God's sakes. We might just have bad luck. I think that might a large part of what it is just bad luck being an Eagles fan. But I'm going to try to find a solution for this because we need to reel in the injuries. The injury report is too long for me every single year. So speaking of injuries, we also need to talk about Jason Peters' injury history. I don't want to manifest any injuries on him, but, I'm trying to look at this season in the long term. And he, for the past few seasons, is great, but for half a season. He's always, I feel like I'm seeing Jason Peters getting carted off the field. It's like deja vu every single year. I'm like, oh, there goes Jason Peters. Hope you're doing well. I don't want to speak poorly about the guy. I love Jason Peters. He's Philly through and through. He's awesome for us. He puts great effort onto the field. I did say yesterday I wanted a little more from him, but overall, he really does a great job on our offensive line protecting our quarterback. I do feel like he does take pride in what he does. But we can't ignore the injury history. We just have this new contract for him that we're going to get into in a little bit. And it's great if he stays healthy, but we need to be focusing on the offensive line, especially after yesterday. We can't, that was granted against a great defensive line, but we need to be focusing on the rest of the season. I'm not trying to lose every single game this year, and we're facing the LA Rams tomorrow. Let's get it together, guys. I want to win. The first ones are always the toughest. Let's get a win this weekend against LA Rams, but, like I said, the focus on keeping the offensive line healthy, and Jason Peters does make me a little nervous with that because he is injured pretty frequently. And like I said, great if he stays healthy, but who knows? If he doesn't, we need to adopt the next man up mentality that we had last year. And who knows, maybe we're going to get some great practice squad stars like we did last year with Greg Ward and Boston Scott, and we can have some offensive linemen that nobody knows shake up the scene and do great. So now let's talk about contracts. Speaking of Jason Peters, let's just get right into his. His contract was reworked last week as he moves to left tackle. He is now worth up to $8 million with a $4 million guaranteed and a $2 million signing bonus. That must be nice. Imagine just writing your name on something and getting $2 million. I wouldn't know what that's like. His previous contract, so this is now a bump up from his previous contract, which was worth $6 million with a $3 million guarantee and a $1 million signing bonus. So, he kind of fought to have this changed as he was switched to left tackle after Andre Dillard was injured with his bicep. He's out for the season, so that's a tough one to swallow too. But, I think that Jason Peters is going to do great in that position. I'm not angry with the contract reworked. I think he deserves it. Like I said, the guy's Philly through and through. I'm not a hater. I like him. Lane Johnson's contract was also reworked to be able to create Jason Peters' revised contract. So Johnson's contract opens up a $5 million opens up $5 million in cap space. But it's also important to note that Lane Johnson doesn't lose any money from his reworked contract. He's rather getting his money in a different way. So they basically took his base salary, turned it into a signing bonus. So this then frees up cap space in the short term. But long term, there is a negative side to that because it increases cap numbers in the long term. So, his deal kind of gives you great short-term benefits, not the best long-term benefits, but, what are you going to do? So now the big contract we need to talk about. Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz contract extension. We need to do it. I think we need to extend it. No questions asked. I love Zach Ertz. I think that he's one of my favorite players. He is just so consistent, so reliable. I mean, he had the very first touchdown of the season yesterday. Like I said, he's reliable. I'm going to knock on wood again. He's rarely injured, and I've seen him play through injuries. Even last year when he had his rib injury, he tried to play through that. He's playing through injuries till he physically no longer can play anymore. And, I don't want to hope that guys are in pain while they're playing, but I do think I respect it as a Philly fan. You're doing everything you can to play at the top level, no matter what pain you're in, no matter your injuries. You are making sure that you're showing up for your team. And I love that about him. And I just think that, we drafted him in 2013. He's been an Eagle for his whole life. Imagine seeing him in a different jersey. I don't know. That would just be wrong for me. And, if I want to play devil's advocate, and we're going to talk about how last season he didn't have as many receptions. But, come on. Look who else there was to guard. We had Deshaun Jackson out. Alshon Jeffrey was down. I didn't even know who. I used to watch Eagles games last year and be like, who is this? Nobody knew who these guys were. So obviously, if you're a defense, why would you defend someone that you don't respect? Instead, you're going to double down on their key player, Zach Ertz. And for a little while, that worked. That was actually pretty decent defensive strategy because we didn't have many options offensively when we were defending and doubling down on Zach Ertz last year. And it wasn't until, players like Greg Ward and Dallas Goedert started showing up and playing well that defenses had to take their, focus off Zach Ertz and put it on other players, which then opened him up so much more for receptions. He still finished last year with 88 receptions for 916 yards and 6 touchdowns. So it's not like he was twiddling his thumbs the whole season. He was still working and doing stuff. He was very frustrated last year. That wasn't a secret. He would finish every game and reporters would be asking him why he doesn't have as many passes or receptions rather. And he's probably just like, dude, I don't know. They're defending me really well. That's all I can say. So, that last year was probably frustrating for him. But if you want to take that last year and use that as your reasoning to why we shouldn't re-sign him and rework his contract, I just think that's incorrect. I'm sorry, you're wrong. You're wrong if you think that because we didn't have anybody on the team last year. And once people stopped doubling down on him, he, was making some plays. Even when they were doubling down on him, he was still making plays, but it was just not as much as the year before. The year before, he had 116 receptions for 1,163 yards with a catching percentage of 74. 74% of the passes he catches. He's just consistently good. He's also great. Everyone loves Zach Ertz in Philadelphia. Why would you want to get rid of him? And, granted, yes, we can say, Dallas Goedert's a great tight end, which he is. And do I think he's going to be the new Zach Ertz? Maybe, but not while Zach Ertz is still on the team. Zach Ertz is Zach Ertz. We can't replace him when he's still doing good. Why would you get rid of someone that's still playing well? To me, that just doesn't make sense. Why not just have 2 great tight ends on your team? You got Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert in there. It's great. It really forces defense to decide who they're going to cover. So I don't know. I'm not a Zach Ertz hater with that contract. I just think you're wrong if you don't think that we should extend his contract. Last week, Zach Ertz and Howie Roseman reportedly had a heated discussion after practice that was witnessed by multiple Eagles players. It was also reported that the conversation ended in a very professional tone, that they said that they were going to work through this together, and that for right now they were going to set their focus on the field. So I don't hate that. We're going to focus on what's happening right now. Zach Ertz's contract, he still has 2 years left on it. So it's not something that needs to be done right now, but I also want to get him locked in. Like, secure the bag, baby. I don't want him becoming a free agent. Like, keep him as an Eagle. Like, I don't know. Do it. Don't be dumb. Extend his contract. So, like I said, there's obviously high tension surrounding this contract. The Eagles offered Zach Ertz a pretty poor contract, offering actually him less money than they did after last year's season, where they offered him a contract and he turned it down. So take that contract, offer him less money, and then hand it to him 8 months later. Like, he's not going to be like, oh, you know what? Now I'm actually really in the mood to take less money. Thank you so much. No. Why would you offer him less money? He already turned you down for that amount of money, and then you're going to offer him less? What are you doing in the front office? Come on. So, the Eagles have made it clear, though, that they are not opposed to further discussion with Zach Ertz. But it's needless to say that he is not happy with what's happening in the renegotiations of his contract. So, like I said, though, important to note that he still has 2 years left on his current contract, which is a $43.6 million contract that includes $20 million guaranteed. So, it's not like he's really like struggling for money right now. I doubt it. $20 million guaranteed. Dang, that's insane. So before we wrap up, let's look at the other teams in the NFC East. Last night, the Dallas Cowboys lost to the LA Rams. Important, great game to watch because the Eagles are playing the LA Rams this weekend. We love seeing Dallas lose too. So it was a pretty decent night to watch them lose and also get a little insight about what's going to happen with the Eagles this weekend. Last night, Dak Prescott finished the night completing 25 of 39 passes with 266 yards and 1 touchdown pass. Zeke Elliott had both touchdowns for the Cowboys, one being a 19-yard touchdown pass and the other a 1-yard run. Neither team scored in the fourth quarter, neither the Cowboys or the LA Rams. It's important to note that Jeff Goff had great passer ratings last night, so that's something looking forward to next week, especially if we have Vinny Curry and Brandon Graham out. We gotta hone it in. We gotta rush him. We can't let him get great passes off going into next weekend. The Giants played tonight against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we know how the Redskins did yesterday, unfortunately. So that's a wrap for today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm That Philly Sports Girl, and I'll see you next week.